America from the Survival World, and this is attempt number 2 to record this video because it for some reason didn't work last time. But this is face-to-face video number 7, and I've actually got a lot of face-to-face ideas recently, and I've been meaning to record them, but just different stuff. I'm actually on spring break from college this week, so I'm hoping to get a bunch of stuff done, and I was just waiting for the right time and stuff like that. I do have, this is probably the one that I've wanted to do the longest, that's been on hold for quite some time, so I really wanted to do it and just like put it out there, and I kind of just been thinking about it more, and so I had a few changes mentally, and I'm like, alright, I'm ready to do that one now. But in any case, this is my top 5 most influential metal albums on me as a musician, as a person, as a writer, composer, my understanding of metal, what got me into metal, all that kind of stuff. And just like a disclaimer, it's not my top 5 metal albums, and when I get to some of the later ones, you'll kind of understand what I mean. And I'm going to try and go through them in like a chronological order, so it's not necessarily when they were released or first to last, like what I like about them. It's just kind of when I encountered them, and like a timeline, I guess you could say. So anyways, my first one is Killswitch Engage, The End of Heartache. I know probably for a lot of people, you probably do really like, and at some point were into Killswitch, and for a lot of people it's probably a cheesy band, and for me, I kind of look at them now a little bit more cheesy. I kind of follow them from a distance. You really got to be into like just riffs, you gotta like Adam D's guitar work and all that kind of stuff to be into Killswitch. I've seen them live in concert, and that was awesome. I really wanted to hear all those songs off this album, but this album was it was the album that got me into metal. It's obviously metalcore, but at the time I was listening to all the post-hardcore, the emo, the screamo, that kind of thing, which was, somewhere between pop punk and the metal world. Meanwhile, the metal world was thriving, going strong, while I wasn't really involved in it. And so it was like Killswitch Engage was that thing that allowed me to make it like a smooth transition into the metal, because it's definitely not screamo, it's definitely not any of those other things in it, but it's definitely metal. Of course it's the lighter side, it has singing choruses, there's like, it's completely melodic and all that kind of stuff, but at the core of what it is, it's definitely metal. And it's probably been the single most influential album for me in my understanding of metal song structure. And obviously there's been so much that's changed that for now, because I don't write metalcore anymore, I don't play metalcore anymore, but it just went from me hearing all this verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge kind of thing to, there's so many different like styles and parts and stuff like that in Killswitch Engage. And so when I was first listening to it, when I got introduced to this, I just listened to it constantly, and from beginning to end, and would just like, I'd get to the end of the album and be like, oh, I guess I'll listen to it again. I just listened to it constantly. So even though I don't listen to Killswitch anymore, I still follow them from a distance, and every once in a while I'll listen to a song or whatever, and it'll take me back, and I'll remember how much I did appreciate that at that time, even though now it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of cheesy, and it's when you've gone brutal and then you go back, it'll never be the same. But anyways, the second album, which when asked about my favorite album, this probably is my favorite metal album. I guess I'd have to think about it a little bit more, but just off the cuff, when people ask me what my favorite metal album is, this is usually what I give them, and it's As I Lay Dying, Shadows Are Security. And I'm a huge fan of As I Lay Dying as it is. Similar to Killswitch, I've kind of fallen out a little bit of following them since I gotten more into the brutal scene and stuff like that. but I remember I used to work at this like back garage and do auto detailing at a car dealership, and we would put this CD in and we would just let it play from beginning to end, and like it was it was so heavy. You know, granted it's in, I think they play in like a drop C tuning, but still it was so heavy. It had bass drops, and you know you could sing along to it. At the time I was still really into metalcore, and it was like the heavier side of metalcore. And I just completely love that. I love I love that they have such a crafted, or they've honed in on their craft so much, and they don't try and be anyone else. And there's like a clear As I Lay Dying sound when you hear it. You're like, oh, that's an As I Lay Dying riff or whatever, you know. But there's still such a broad spectrum of like styles and stuff. You can hear some of their thrash, you can hear some of the hardcore influence, but it's just like it made, for me it made simple melodic metal, just it made it seem so awesome. And yet they did a lot of the 3/4 time and just different stuff like that, blast beats, things that when I was listening to Killswitch they didn't have really. And so it was like a heavier version and a similar style. You know, I guess you could compare those two, but for me it was definitely like a difference. And so this next album is part of my disclaimer. The third most influential album for me in metal was actually Bring Me the Horizon, Count Your Blessings. And I know I'll probably catch a lot of flack for this, and I'll hear a lot about this, but if I since I sat down and thought about this and was honest with myself, I have to give credit where credit's due. And sometime around that same time that I was really getting into As I Lay Dying, and they were kind of one of my staple bands. I wasn't really into the deathcore thing yet. I wasn't fully transitioned from the singing, screaming to all the way screaming. And you know, you could say that the Count Your Blessings album was cheesy, and it was like simple or whatever, or just like a gimmick and over dramatic. And I'll definitely say that to a degree it was and is, even though Bring Me the Horizon has transitioned a lot from them. It's another band that I don't follow beyond this, but um they took a, to me they were the first presentation of an alternate song structure, which is to say, you know, Killswitch, what they did for me in song structure of introducing metal song structure, Bring Me the Horizon introduced me into like a heavier song structure idea. Just things that are so common in deathcore and like heavy bands like that, that it's concepts and principles and whatever, however you want to say that, that aren't present in a band like As I Lay Dying or Killswitch Engage. Like slow down things, like when it goes, it's like a half speed breakdown, and then and then it like slows down again. Things like that, which now people probably look at it as a little bit more gimmicky, but for me at the time I was really like learning a lot, and I gained a lot from that band and from that album. That, to me, that was another album that I listened to from beginning to end. And it wasn't like you didn't sit down and study it kind of thing, but when you were just listening to it casually, it was something that you could just sing along to, and it was catchy, and it was so dark. Like a lot of it was really dark, and I'm not really a fan of the. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the message and the lyrics and stuff like that anymore. But at the time when I encountered it, it was kind of where I was at in life, and so I guess you could say I appreciated it more. But um, now when I look back on it, it's kind of like, whatever. But I would still listen to that album and, you know, take what I could from it. But this next one, this is probably, this would be probably my um, second favorite metal album. But in the time, this is how it influenced me, was Parkway Drive Horizons. Um, I have nothing bad to say about this entire album or even this band. Once again, another band that I don't really follow. I follow at a distance. I didn't even really listen to anything beyond that. I listened to, let's see, there was Deep Blue and there's another one, and I think they even got a new one coming out. And I heard that, and for me it was like they moved from what was here, and I understand band growth and you gotta develop and change your sound, all that kind of stuff, but I wish that they had done a different, like, Horizons 2.0 so much, because um, I think the one thing that I guess you could say, as this list goes on, I've taken different things from all these bands, and it's somehow um, influenced me in my writing, and it's definitely culminated into what This Divided World is. And it sounds funny, but the the thing that I most got from Parkway Drive was that they're not really deathcore if you get down to it. They're tuned to B flat, as far as I know, which is right in that deathcore tuning. They're super melodic, but I think the thing that makes them most heavy is that they have an entire album that has a metalcore sound with no singing in it. And now I'm not sure if they do or don't have singing anymore. Maybe you guys know, but they have some of the gang chants and all that kind of stuff. But I, I'm not even sure if there's a single thing that I can pick from Parkway Drive that I love so much about them. I mean, they're cool dudes. I've never met them, but you know, good attitude. Everything you see from them, just like seem like they'd be good dudes to know and be around, and they're honest, and they are who they are, and they're upfront about that. But man, that Horizons album, that's an album that I'll actually listen to the intro on it. You know, in a lot of bands, you skip that. It's a filler track. I feel like there's no filler tracks on that album, and to me, that's a serious accomplishment for a band to create a full length album. Not like a 3-song EP or a 5-song EP, because that's easier. You cherry pick what's really great on it, and you just don't have any fillers. But to on a I can't remember how long it is, maybe a 12 tracks on it, or 11 or whatever, and to have it be awesome from beginning till end. And to me, that's a serious accomplishment, and I can't say enough good things about that album. And rounding out the list is actually Impending Doom, the Serpent. And this is surprisingly last in my list because of all these bands, this is the not the last band that I heard of, maybe, but it's the last band that I got into. And I had a buddy that tried to turn me on to Impending Doom like a while ago, and for me it was just like, nah, I'm not interested. And I kind of liked some of the stuff, and then I didn't like it. I think I heard some of their death metal influence stuff, and the further back you go, the less I was into that. And believe it or not, the more I get into deathcore, the more I get into death metal. And that might make sense to some people, but if you're like a death metal elitist or whatever, then you think that I'm not allowed to say that. But in any case, now I appreciate it so much more, and I just appreciate that there's a Christian band that's that heavy, and the album is just so awesome. There's things that I would not have done on that album. Um, Obviously, just because it's not specifically my style or the direction I'm headed, or those aren't things that I would think of. But in the context, for me, it's like Impending Doom can get away with it, and they can make it cool, and it's something that I would want to listen to. But if it was another band, I wouldn't listen to it. So in any case, I guess let me try and summarize. Because I think the thing that I like most, the reason I picked all these bands was because there was something maybe small, but something like like something that I took away from each of these bands. I guess from Killswitch I took away the idea of like metal song structure, and it was important to me because I hadn't really listened to metal before. And then As I Lay Dying, the number one thing that I always take away from them is cut the intro. And yeah, they got intros and stuff, but they have intros where it's necessary. Not every song is supposed to have an intro, you know, and so most of the time a lot of their songs are just straight into it. Like instead of like doing one bar of the verse riff or whatever the first riff is, and then a build up or whatever, they just go straight into it. There's no intro of anything, and I love that about them. They don't waste any time. Um, Bring Me the Horizon was just like, I really liked a lot of their breakdown rhythms and how heavy. I had never heard stuff that was tuned to, I think, B flat, which is what they're tuned to, drop B flat, and just they came from a really dark place, which, you know, is, I feel a little bit differently about that now, but at the time, I love that. Parkway Drive, just the fact that you can make a metal album that has like a really epic feel to it, but you don't cross that line of having singing in it, and it's been something it's been like a reoccurring theme for this Divide World. I've had people say to me over and over and over again, man, if there was just one singing part, and it's so tempting to do it, but I want to be the one guy that holds out and doesn't have singing. Like even a Plea for Purging, I think it was the Marriage of Heaven and Hell, is that the name of that album? And there's like a singing part, and I'm like, shouldn't have done it. Like, should have just gone straight heavy. And I guess Impending Doom, the Serpent, the main thing for me was knowing that there was a Christian band out there that was trying to be just like brutal and really compete with, I mean that's all in quotes, compete with something that's non-Christian out there, as opposed to all these other Christian bands that are a lot lighter and stuff like that. But anyways, that's my 16 and a half, 17-minute by the time I get done with this. Face-to-face video on my top 5 most influential metal albums. If you feel like it, you can post a video response with either your top 5 favorite or top 5 most influential if you're a musician, or just whatever, if it affected you in any particular way. But hopefully I'll have some new face-to-face, some new vlogs, and bunch of different stuff coming for you. So thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.